Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is Executive Leadership and Engagement in the Time of Crisis, Day 4. Your instructor today is Dr. William Latchford. My name is Alyssa Atkins, and today I will be your webinar facilitator. I am the Training and Development Coordinator for the Native Learning Center. A quick disclaimer before we get started. This webinar provides a summary of fundamental concepts, requirements, and/or procedure within the allotted 90 minutes. The material discussed does not illustrate all possible scenarios that could be applicable. Also displayed here is our copyright infringement law. This is just a friendly reminder that the webinar presentation materials are protected by copyright, trademark, trade secret, and other intellectual property laws. You can access today's presentation slides available for download as well as the rest of the webinar materials in the courses page. It'll be on the left-hand side. Just beware, if you click on the red, you will be taken out. If you are taken out, no worries. Rejoin, log back onto the platform, and click that green banner at the top, and it'll take you back into today's webinar. It will conduct an audio test before bringing you into the webinar. Please always select Listen Only to avoid any audio feedback during the webinar. If you wish to change the speaker you are hearing from, you can do so by clicking the phone icon. This will bring up a list of your speaker/mic devices, so you can select the one you prefer. You can access important links over on the left-hand side under Shared Notes, and you can also type in your questions and communicate to Dr. William by typing in the chat box. And a final note, just if you click anywhere on the red side, it will take you out. So don't forget that if you do get taken out, you can just log back in and click the green banner. It is now with the pleasure that I introduce it and pass it off to Dr. Will.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Thank you, Ms. Atkins, for that great introduction. Welcome to Fostering Resilience, a guide for tribal leadership across any type of leadership landscape. So I'd like to start just by, I put it in the notes, the chat note here is just a quote that I think is very fitting and transposes and transcends across this topic. And I call it the quote of the day. It's one thing about crisis, it causes change in behavior. We have to adapt to that type of change and make it a positive. And that quote's from the previous professional and also the college football coach Nick Saban of the University of Alabama. This quote, I think, is important because it highlights the necessity of adapting and finding opportunities for positive change during challenging times. And as a leader, that's what we all strive to do on a daily basis. But when it comes to crisis, that's something that we should also keep in mind. So I highly recommend use that quote for everything you do as the foundation that will continue to motivate you through your leadership journey. So I welcome you today for this 90-minute webinar. A little bit about Native Peacekeeper Consulting Group. It's owned by Seminole Tribal member Amy Osceola Latchford. It is a small certified Native woman-owned business. And the whole goal of Amy's vision is to create a teamwork or team that can come together, that can take their knowledge, skills, and ability that they've learned over their career and to enhance Indian country and other organizations that require public safety service, leadership service, threat assessment, or risk management or emergency management services. So Amy has built a team that has over 175 years of experience that range across the country, from leaders, from police chiefs and fire chiefs, from municipalities to tribal or local government, to include special agent in charge that were retired from the Bureau of Indian Affairs or the Federal Bureau of Investigations. And along with, we're honored we have part of our consultant team, police chiefs from Canada. So a wide range of expertise that Amy has put together and continues to put together to provide a high level of service to Indian country to enhance their service delivery models. As Ms. Atkins stated, my name is Will Latchford. I'm currently a doctor of criminal justice, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today and just give you some wisdom when it comes to leadership in crisis and building resiliency. My background is I started as a frontline police officer for the Seminole Tribe of Florida. I was able to rise through the ranks over 30 years and retiring at the position of Executive Director of Public Safety for the Seminole Tribe of Florida, overseeing their police, fire, and emergency management over 10 geographical locations in the state of Florida. So I was honored by the opportunity the Seminole Tribe gave me to build my career, build my legacy, and I'm honored to pass along those lessons that I learned through that experience every day by being part of Native Peacekeeper Consulting Group. My education background is I have a doctorate degree from the University of St. Leo University in criminal justice. My master's degree is from St. Leo University in emergency management and criminal justice, and my bachelor's degree is in public administration from Barry University. I'm a graduate of the highest level of leadership courses with the FBI National Academy and FBI LEADA, and along with the Command Officers Development course that the University of Louisville puts on for prestigious law enforcement executives. So I bring a wealth of knowledge to the table. However, that knowledge does not put me in a position to where I stop learning. So every day I learn, and I encourage you as leaders to continue that path. And that's going to build up your resiliency. Is the more you learn, and your career should be built on every day that you go in, you learn and you build off of each day to make yourself a better leader, to become a better leader for the community and the subordinates that you serve. Before we get started, this is the disclaimer for Native Peacekeeper Consulting Group. The content presented in this training is designed to provide comprehensive, up-to-date information and guidance in the event that any information or advice shared here appears to contradict your organization's policies and procedures. Please defer to your organization's official guidelines and protocols. Your adherence to your internal policies and procedures is paramount for organizational and professional success. So we take it on high regard when organizations have policies are put in place. So if you hear any contradictory information or something that raises to your level that you have questions on regards to what this presentation is versus the leadership style in your organization, always follow the policy that you have in place. Talk to your supervisors and see if you can mitigate that policy. And sometimes just having those discussions provides opportunity to enhance and change policy for the better. However, we encourage you, if you do have that conflict, please refer back to your organizational policy. So let's talk a little bit about resilience in tribal government as a leader. So it's very important that leaders understand what resiliency is and how they fit in to the concept of resiliency and how to make sure that your organization is resilient when it comes to crises that come upon you. Understanding resiliency is important for each leader. So resiliency is the ability to adapt and thrive in the face of challenges. It's about more than just surviving. It's about flourishing amidst the change, right? So we want to come out of whatever we're going through and whatever crisis we're dealing with. We want to come out at a higher level, at a better level. Our community wants to be better. Our experience, our knowledge, skills, and ability will raise through that resiliency. So we need to understand as leaders and as tribal leaders that resiliency is something that you're not anointed with, that you have to work through every day, regardless if there's a crisis or non-crisis. Every day you go to work, you want to make sure you're building yourself up. So when that real crisis hits, your resiliency will carry you through that concept of making yourself stronger through the crisis and then into the future. Within a tribal context, every tribal organization faces unique challenges, and they're all different. And that includes the historical trauma, which still may resonate in a community. with communities that have limited resources. And through, regardless of what those challenges are, you need to find a balance of continuing those traditional values and navigating the modern needs that your community may face today. So as tribal communities navigate through crises, their resiliency has to be at a higher level, in my opinion, through other communities, because of the fact that they face different circumstances that other communities may not face. And really, they embrace their cultural values as their driving force and priority through their success. So that adds another layer that we want to make sure your leadership style in your tribal community has that attribute, so you can continue through the crisis and do not lose a step when it comes to building on your traditions, your customs, and values. When we look at the elements of a resilient culture, there's several areas you want to consider. You want to make sure you're adaptable. You want to embrace change and adjust strategies in response to new realities and challenges. Adaptability is very important. Collaboration is a key to building a resilient culture. You want to foster strong relationships and shared responsibilities across your tribal programs, and at every level of organization, from the boots on the ground to the highest executive leader. You want to make sure collaboration is always in play, it's consistent, and it's always modifying and getting better. You want to create an environment of innovation. You want to encourage a creative solution and embrace new challenges that are going to address the emerging needs. Each community is different, so your innovation is going to be different. However, by learning about other communities and those innovative tactics they're taking, you can use that to enhance your community. And then the other area is leadership. You want to develop leaders at all levels of your organization to champion resiliency. You want to inspire them as that top tribal leader, and you want to guide them through the crisis and through that change. It's so important that that teamwork and collaboration is working together to guide every leader through the organization when there's a crisis imminent or they're going through. Some of the things you can do to prepare for future challenges before a crisis hits is you can identify future skills that staff may need or what you may need. So anticipating those skills your organization will need that will help you thrive into the future. So you want to identify those skills. You also want to identify the talent that needs to be developed. Investing in training and development opportunities to build the workforce up for the future is important. So you just don't want to work for today, you want to invest into the future. We'll talk a little bit about that as we progress through the webinar. You want to empower decision making. It's so important that the top leader creates the environment, that the environment is conducive to fostering a culture where decisions are made at appropriate levels and are necessary when given input is needed. So you want to make sure that the decision-making mentality is out there throughout your environment. And that's not an easy thing to do. You want to make sure that you stay consistent and you're always harping on the decision-making, who's making the decisions, how low do those decisions go, and what's the appropriate level those decisions should be made. Through the preparation for future challenges, you also can build on cultural of ownership, right? So you want to have every employee from your level at the top of the tier all the way down to the bottom. You want to make sure every employee has that ownership. By coming to work for you, they've signed a contract either directly or just through the concept of being an employee of yours. They've signed a contract that they take ownership in your mission, and they want to carry your mission and carry your flag. So by creating a sense of shared responsibility through the organization, you're going to get better buy-in from the employees, and it's going to make your job a little bit more easier, but it's also going to create an environment where your resiliency is going to be built up and it's going to be stronger. So when that crisis hits, you have everybody on the team giving input and playing at the same level. One of the big issues is breaking down silos. Every organization has silos in it. And when you have a bigger organization that has 72 programs or 50 programs or 30 programs, you as the top leader need to make sure there's no silos in your program and in your tribe. Silos can damage an organization, and you're only as good as your weakest link. So if you have a program that is in its own silo and not working together and functioning as a team with the rest of the organization, that is a weakness that can hamper you becoming resilient and being the best that you can be. So going through breaking down silos, there's a couple things you want to look at. You want to look at cross-functioning teams, forming teams that include representatives from different departments to foster that collaboration. By having those cross-functioning teams and having programs work across lines, you're going to minimize those silos. You want to look at open communication. Create the environment where open communication channels are open and information is sharing on a regular basis. Again, this is all done without the crisis happening. This is all has to be taught, has to be led, has to be guided when a crisis isn't involved. If you do it on an everyday basis, when that crisis hits, this is going to be normal, where silos will not negatively impact your operation. You want to also talk about shared goals. Programs, regardless of if they're a police officer or a police department and a fire department or a health department or an education department, every tribal program has somewhere along the lineage a shared goal or shared goals that they can work on. Those shared goals are important to make sure that those goals are aligned, and they're accurately aligned between programs to show that the organization can dive into those overarching strategic objectives to make you successful and bring you out better on the other side of your crisis. So breaking down silos is something, as a leader, you want to make sure you identify early on and then work through breaking them, and let the program directors all the way down to boots on the ground understand that you're not going to accept silos in an organization. In your organization, in order for you to be successful, the people you really serve, which is the community, you need to make sure silos are broken and they're mitigated, and it's just not your responsibility. You need to create that culture amongst your leaders that silos will not be tolerated, and it's everybody's job that when they see silos, or there's that opportunity where silos are taking a creep into the operation, that it's broken, and that leaders address and mitigate those silos from engaging into the environment. That will assist you in creating less stress when it comes to that crisis. So silos are something that identify early, deal directly, swiftly, and move them away from your organization so you don't have silos throughout your organization, so your leadership can thrive. When we look at resiliency, we want to nurture it. We want to nurture it, and we want to make sure it's very engaging, right? One of the key points of building resiliency is celebrate successes. You want to make sure, as the leader, that you're recognizing the good that's being done in your organization on an average day. And then when someone goes above and beyond, you want to make sure that is recognized. So you want to celebrate the organization and individual accomplishments to boost morale and foster a culture that when you do something good as a boss, you're going to recognize that and you're going to let them know. All the way down to just a simple email to that one employee who did a good job, sending them an email, letting them know you're thinking about them, you recognize the work that they did for whatever that circumstance is, and you encourage them to continue along that path because they are a valued employee. Make sure your employees know that you want to celebrate them, you recognize their value, and you recognize your organization cannot be successful unless they're part of it. So you want to let them know you appreciate them. You also want to create that environment to where the organization feels like people belong. You want to create inclusion and welcome everybody and let them know that they're valued and they're respected, right? They may not do things perfect every day because none of us are perfect, and they may make mistakes, but you want to make sure the environment creates that sense of belonging. And that's something you always continue to have to do, because in leadership, if you're at the top of the organization, sometimes when your message gets down to the bottom, it's not necessarily the same as what you communicated out. So creating that sense of belonging, you need to hold every leader accountable and making sure that they're also letting employees know that they're valued and they're respected, and that the people in the middle, from you at the top of the organization to the bottom of the organization, are not male persons or male men or male ladies that are just there passing your message along. Your message should be everybody's message, from you all the way down to the bottom. You want to make sure that you have and you're promoting an open dialogue in your organization. It's very important to create a space so employees feel they can voice their concerns and shared ideas. Now, this is a balance because you want to make sure that it's not a griping environment, right? So you want to make sure that when people voice their concerns, they recognize the fact that they're just having a bad day and it's something that is really minute, that they may not feel that that's important to voice, right? So whatever they voice, you want to make sure it's going to be productive. They just may need to voice something that they need to get off their shoulders. It's not really going to impact a lot of stuff. Allow them that opportunity to have that foundation where they can voice their concerns, let people know how they think and what they care about, and that may lead into a positive change within your organization. So it's important to have that open dialogue. The other part is you want to encourage learning. It's important that your organization, from a tribal leadership aspect, is always learning, right? You want to have people look at their career and their legacy as they're always getting better today than they are tomorrow. And through that process, they can develop their knowledge, skills, and ability by having an environment where they feel that they can grow and they can always exceed expectations by their knowledge, skill, and ability. So create that environment to where learning is a tool that you want to use to make sure that the service delivery is at the high end when you deliver it to the community. When you look at the foundation of resiliency when it comes to leadership, there's a couple things that you can use to just as a framework as you travel down your everyday, right? You want to look and have a leadership visionary. You know, to have a visionary leadership, it inspires you and motivates you to go out and motivate and inspire others. And that gives you the opportunity to articulate a clear vision for what your future is, what you see that your organization should see and where you're going. It also provides the opportunity for you to expose empowering leadership. You as a leader, you can empower your team to make decisions and take ownership of their work. You always want to focus of empowering individuals, not cutting them down, right? And sometimes through your progress, it may be perceived you're cutting them down, but you want to make sure whatever you do, you always empower them. At the end of the day, regardless of how bad the situation is, always empower your employees at the end to make sure they understand what those expectations are and that they're valued in that expectation to where they're going to be the ones that you have confidence in. The other part of your foundation of resiliency when it comes to leadership is you can create a collaborative environment. So your leadership style needs to create a collaborative environment that fosters teamwork and builds strong relationships across the organization and outwards to your outside partners. So that's something you want to make sure you keep in consideration is always look at being collaborative. You're never on an island of your own when you're a leader, especially as you're top and when you're at the top. Sometimes you feel that way, and that's what being a leader is. Sometimes you have to make those hard decisions that sometimes people may not understand. But if you do it the right way, you communicate the right way, and you use the resources around you, you can be collaborative and you can be successful. So those three areas of leadership, visionary leadership, empowering leadership, and collaborative leadership, those are three areas that you can use to help create that foundation of resiliency in your organization. When we look at building a culture of resiliency, there's several areas that you can improve on. It's important to start with self-assessment, right? So the way you conduct yourself is very important, and the way your organization conducts itself is very important, right? So you want to find a balance, and you can do that by conducting a self-assessment. One of your leadership, and the other is through your organization. And this is done by identifying the strengths and weaknesses that's going to help you improve in all areas across your organization. So you want to do self-assessments. The second thing is you want to make sure everybody's engaged. It's just not about the people at the top. You have to bring the people at the bottom in. It provides that opportunity to give feedback. It provides that opportunity to be part of the solution. So you want to look at all members across your organization when you engage in building this culture. The third thing is you want to create the plan. You want to create the resiliency plan so it's documented everybody knows that this is the beginning framework that your organization will work off of. So create a plan that outlines strategies that can be adapting to future challenges, right? So it's a plan that you create today, but it's always going to be evolving. You want to use that plan as not as the holy grail that it never changes. It's always going to be evolving. So you create it today, you create the framework that you're going to need, and then you continue to build off of it. It's just like building a structure or building a house. You create the foundation, and then you begin by building that house by putting the walls in, the insulation in, the tile in, and so on and so forth. So you want to make sure that you develop that plan, put it in writing, and then through that process, you want to always continue to improve it. So you want to always do reviews of that plan. If it's either quarterly or 6 months or once a year, have yourself a structure as the leader where you can bring everybody together to look at your plan, your resiliency plan, what everybody's roles and responsibilities are, so it can be reviewed, you can update those plans, and you can ensure that regardless of what comes through your path, you're going to be effective. As you look at the fact of sustaining resiliency through communication, you want to have an open and transparent environment. You want to communicate openly and transparently about any challenges or opportunities that are out there. Let people know what the challenges are. Let them know what those opportunities are that you're looking at that's going to be successful. The other part as a leader is you want to make sure you're a very good active listener. Create the environment that there's opportunities for people to give feedback from the community. They're able to give dialogue, and their voice is willing to be heard. People just want to be part of something. If you can create that environment by listening to them and then using what they say to work into the solution, your resiliency is going to be stronger at the end of the crisis. You want to celebrate that progress, right? So you want to let people know and recognize and celebrate and reinforce that their feedback has been productive for you, right? So when you're a good listener and they're giving feedback, you want to then go back at the end of the day, once you've identified the path you're going and you've used their input, you want to let them know that. You want to let them know you appreciate them and you appreciate their feedback that they've given. Even if you didn't use it, follow back up with them and let them know that you appreciate them speaking out, that you considered what their solutions would be or their ideas are. And right now it's just not the appropriate time to use it, but you're going to keep it in memory. You wrote it down, and there's an opportunity in the future that you may go back to it. So just let people know that they care and they will support you. As a leader, you want to leverage technology. And through your resilience, you want to leverage technology to help you. So you want to look at data-driven decisions, right? Use technology to build data so you can analyze it and you can make informed decisions as you track your progress through the crisis. You know, Zooms and webinars and Teams, you know, they have come to the forefront because of COVID. So if anything came out of COVID, that was good, and not many stuff, but I would say, in my opinion, that one of the overarching positives that came out of COVID was the collaboration remotely. And being remote, you're able to do a lot more. You're able to reach out and touch a lot more people with remote collaboration. So using tools like WebEx and Zoom and Teams and this platform that Native Learning Center is using that is very dynamic, you have the ability to be effective and collaborate. And I appreciate Native Learning Center's foundation to use a tool like this to where they're able to reach many people across the country. And that collaboration and communication is key to your resiliency. So Native Learning Center has learned that their resiliency through their training is important to have some type of foundation of technology that's going to help them reach a lot of people with the training that they're providing. So you want to look at those areas to build your technology base up to leverage these platforms that are out there to make your organization better. So keep technology close to the vest. It's always evolving. There's always new technology out there. Although it is expensive in some areas, there is also opportunities to where you can use that technology through grants. You can obtain technology through the grant system that will allow you to build your organization up to leverage technology through your leadership. As we look at building partnerships for resiliency, it's important that tribes stick together. It's important that you collaborate from tribe to tribe and see what each tribe is doing. Not one tribe is better than the other. They're all great. So you want to make sure that you're communicating with other tribal leaders and program leaders across Native American tribes to see what they're doing, right? Because what they're doing can help your organization grow. You may not do it the same way they're doing it, but the principles or the framework they're using, you can adapt into your community, massage it a little bit so it's a little bit more successful, or it's going to be successful for your community, and then you can build your program up based on what somebody else is doing that's going to fit your community. I always like to use the term in the past of Seminole friendly. We would go out to conferences or talk to other organizations in public safety, and then we'd see what they're doing. And we knew that it wouldn't work exactly the way we wanted to in the tribe's community, but we would go back and then we would sit and work on, okay, how can we make this Seminole friendly? How can we take what this tribe is doing or this other public safety entity is doing, and how can we bring that back to our community and let our community be a recipient of this successful program? And so we would massage it to make sure it would fit perfectly in the tribe's community, and then we would go ahead and implement it. So you want to make sure those intertribal collaborations are being utilized and they're effective for you. Again, other governing partnerships are important, local, state, and federal governments. The key to that is to make sure that each organization, local, state, and federal, recognize tribal sovereignty. You want to make sure that that respect is there, right? You can have that relationship as long as everybody's on the same page when it comes to creating that environment and those lines of respect. I remember years ago, law enforcement has evolved over the years. The tribe's police department was very small, and through the years, we were able to create those relationships with other public safety entities. So they understood the tribe's police department and public safety roles, the capacity that we could carry out the job and how we did it. And then they start to understand that they weren't going to come in and just take over or take power away from the public safety department for the tribe. Those relationships were built. The respective lines were drawn in the sand. And so now as we speak here today, I'm proud to say that every organization the Seminole Tribe coordinates with, from state, federal, or other tribes, or even local organizations, that relationship is built on trust, to where the tribe has a seat at the table, public safety's at the table, public safety for the tribe handles those issues without anybody thinking that they're going to have one over on the other. So it's important to have those governmental partnerships, but you also have to recognize and build up that the tribal sovereignty is important, and those organizations have to respect that and understand what each role is. Nonprofit collaboration is so important. I know the reservation has different opportunities for nonprofit collaboration. Some do not have that opportunity, but it's important to have that nonprofit collaboration, especially during critical events. I know the Seminole Tribe, we've had partnerships with ice companies and fuel companies, and also just lumber companies. So when hurricanes come through, we were able to just pick up the phone and call them, and they bend over backwards to help the tribe out. So having that nonprofit collaboration before any crisis happens is something that's very important. So I encourage you as a leader to identify those areas, even if they're not on the reservation. Create that partnership, so when that crisis happens, that relationship's already built, and you can build off that relationship and use it to the betterment of your community to make it the best. As we look at investing in resiliency, we want to make sure that your financial resources are at the best that they can be, right? So you want to allocate those resources to support resiliency building in every initiative, right? I understand nothing is free, and you have a priority that your fiscal responsibility individuals handle. However, as a tribal leader, you want to make sure that you're not overzealous, but you need to make sure that you have a financial outlook that's going to work when that crisis hits, that it's going to be involved to where your financial resources are available to you. one of the challenges or solutions actually to the challenge that I'd recommend is, as you go through your fiscal responsibility every year, put aside a certain amount of funds that are going to be just dedicated to those crises that you know are coming. If you don't use it, then it's there and it can be put into reserves or moved to wherever legally your laws allow you to move your money. But the reality is, by allocating a certain amount, identifying a certain amount can help you through that crisis to where you're not panicking when a crisis happens looking for funds. The other part is human capital. It's important for you to invest in your employees. And I know sometimes employees are expensive. Public safety is expensive. Other tribal programs are expensive. But the reality is, if you really want to continue to build resiliency, you have to invest in training your people, developing your people, and compensating them at least to the industry standard. You want to make sure that you're maybe not at the top tier, but be somewhere up to a tier that you're going to get recruiting qualified individuals. You're going to be able to retain those individuals, and you're going to make sure that you're getting the best of the best, right? So you have to invest into human capital. That's so important. Don't take the easy way out to be cheap. Be reasonable and invest in your human capital so you can recruit and retain the best workers that are out there, and you can train them and develop them when they come in your organization. The other area of investing in resiliency is you want to make sure you invest in your infrastructure. You want to enhance the organization's capacity to respond to the emergencies. You want to forecast when you have to replace buildings. You want to strengthen your infrastructure, make sure that your buildings are at the highest codes so they're not impacted. The other part of that is you want to make sure when you forecast the infrastructure, you want to look at from A to Z, right? So if you're going to put a new building in place, you have to look at the fact of how much is that building going to cost you once it's done being built? How much does it cost to clean that building? How much does it cost to just keep the lights on, right? Those little things are important. So when you're looking at resiliency, you want to forecast all those out in the front end to include, what is needed in that building. How many desks do you need in there? And out of those desks, when are they going to have to be replaced? Are they going to have to be replaced in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line? A lot of times leaders don't necessarily look at things like that. So I highly recommend, as you look at strengthening your infrastructure, don't just look for today and how excited you are for a new building. Look at the future. Look at 5 years down the road, 15 years down the road, and determine in that infrastructure how much it's costing you on a day, how much it's going to cost you 5 years from now, how much that infrastructure is going to cost you 10, 15 years from now. So that way, that'll include to where you can plan and you can be stable in planning through resiliency when you need to make a change, or you need to buy new furniture, or you need to restructure that building, or you need to replace that building. So you want to know that roadmap when it comes to building your infrastructure as the leader of the organization. Resiliency in the time of crisis. During that crisis, you want to stay informed. You want to monitor developments and communicate regularly with staff and your community members. It's important in the time of crisis to know when to activate your plans and make sure your tribal programs are activating their plans and instilling what's in those plans out into the community to be effective and to coordinate that response. As the overall leader in the organization, you want to make sure your tribal members are supported. So you want to provide those resources of support to tribal members who are affected by the crisis. What I mean by that, just simple, is that you as the top leader has to get the work done through others. And by getting the work done through others, look at it from the standpoint you're at the top, the community's at the bottom in this scenario during crisis. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that everybody in between, which is your tribal programs and your workforce, is carrying out their responsibility. So you're the top tier. You want to make sure those tribal members are supported and recognize the fact that your programs have to stand up to take care of those community needs. And sometimes they don't meet that challenge. Your job as a leader is to continue to lift that workforce up, to provide that service to the community. And if you can build these relationships up before the crisis hits, when the crisis hits, everybody, to include the community, is going to know what their roles are. You want to build a culture of well-being when it comes to building resiliency and your resiliency. You want to look at the mental health support. Nowadays, it's so important to look at people's mental health, look at your workforce and the community, because it does have stress. You know, when you have a crisis, it puts undue stress on people that may not be used to handling stress, right? No one wants to deal with stress. No one wants to deal with those impacts of stress. However, when a crisis happens and people are impacted, they're impacted with stuff that they may not be ready for. So it's important for you as a leader to recognize and provide access to mental health resources to your staff and to your community. You want to look at implementing a wellness program. If you have a wellness program that you can implement prior to a crisis, this will help you not only in the crisis, but it'll help you with the mental health issue as well, because people will focus on being more healthier. They will focus on their mental stability. They'll focus on their emotional stability and their well-being. And this will help you as you go through crisis to where it doesn't add more crisis to the crisis you're already dealing with. You want to make sure the community knows there's support. So the community needs to know where that support's coming from local churches on the reservation. You want to create that opportunity so those areas around the reservation can have support to the community and the staff, so they can connect with the staff, connect with the community. So whatever is missing, those different areas of the community can help support the overall operation. And what this does, it gives a totality of teamwork from the community, teamwork from tribal government, teamwork from your workforce, and everybody's working together for the greater good to get the community through the crisis. The importance of traditional knowledge. It's so important that you incorporate your traditional knowledge in the planning to keep your resiliency as you go through the crisis, right? So you want to do this on the front end. You want to make sure that you've identified those survival strategies that's going to make sure your traditional knowledge and your values are kept in place, right? You can do this in the front end. So I encourage you, because sometimes in crisis, people forget things. So you want to make sure whatever traditional values and cultural resilience that you need to put in play to keep that strong foundation, do that on an everyday basis with your employee base, especially if you have non-tribal member employees. If you have non-tribal member employees, it's important to accurately get the message across to them about your tradition and your culture. And just don't do it once. It's got to be consistent. They have to understand that passing that knowledge along to them is important. It's important for the future of your tribe. It's important for the future generations. And it's important for the work that they're currently doing and going to do during crisis, to make sure there's stability and that your tradition and values are protected, they're respected, and they're carried along. So it's crucial to preserve and share your traditional knowledge with not only your own members, but with your employee base if you have non-tribal member employees. Let's talk a little bit about the resiliency and continuous journey, right? So I talked a little bit earlier about self-reflecting. That's something you always continue to do. I want to take a couple minutes to talk about adapting to change and some of the things you can do as a leader to adapt to change. You want to embrace the need to adapt and evolve in every circumstance that you come across. So you as a leader can be more adaptable, and you can embrace change by developing several key areas and adapting certain practices in your everyday life. One of the areas, or one of many areas that we're going to talk about, is you can cultivate a growth mindset, right? So you as a leader, you want to embrace learning in your environment, and you want to see challenges as opportunities, right? So if you can send the message to your staff that challenges they go through are opportunities, right? They're not heartaches or hardships for you. They're opportunities, right? You want to accept failure as part of the learning process and encourage your team to do the same, right? It's okay to fail. The key to failure is, how are we rebounding? What are we doing, and how are we doing it to succeed? So you want to make sure that the staff understands that it's okay to make mistakes, but what they're going to do to fix that mistake to make things better is important. You want to stay informed. Keep up with industry standards, the new technologies, the best practices. This will help you adapt to the change that's going on or the anticipated change you're going to encounter. You want to encourage innovation. Again, you want to create that environment as the leader to be creative and encourage your workforce and your community that their ideas are important. And you want to foster that culture of teamwork and make it feel safe to propose and experiment on new solutions. That's your job as a leader, is to encourage innovation. Another job that you have as a leader is to enhance emotional intelligence. You want to understand and manage your emotional intelligence as well as the people that are around you. You want to look at who is influencing the emotion, right? So you want to be able to recognize that emotion that can be influenced, and you want to help navigate that change smoothly. You want to be positive all the time. You want to develop resiliency as you go through this journey. You can build resiliency by managing the stress that you encounter, the stress your employees encounter, and teach them and teach yourself that maintaining a positive outlook during challenging times is really what success is. Encourage your team to develop these skills as you navigate through this journey as well. You want to foster open communication. You want to build diverse teams as you travel through this. You want to practice decision making and how agile people are when they make decisions. You want to implement methods that are in place that allow flexibility and quick decision making that's going to prepare you for the pivotal moments that come across during the crisis. Again, you want to continuously learn. You want to commit your organization to life learning through courses, workshops, community development, seminars. You want to encourage your team and your community to build off of being an adaptable community or society. So when crisis hits, they're going to be more resilient. Feedback is very important. You want to take strategic risk. You know, that's tough for a leader, is to take risk. As a leader, that is your job. So when you look at strategic risks, you want to make sure you encourage and you weigh out the potential benefits against the downsides and proceed with a clear and a tested plan. You don't want a crisis management in a crisis. That's the worst thing you can do, is deliver crisis management in the crisis. It's called a crisis for a reason. You don't want to manage that crisis through another crisis. So you want to make sure everything you do is done strategically. Of course, when you do this, you want to empower your team, and you want to self-reflect on what you're doing, and you want to adjust accordingly to keep that cycle of continuous improvement going. Those are some areas that you can take with you, that adapting to change will help you progress through this crisis without being so overwhelmed and bogged down by the crisis itself. Incorporate these practices not only to support your personal growth as a leader, you can propel the organization forward in a constantly changing environment. So those areas of adapting to things are very important for your organization to move forward. You don't want to be stagnant. Building a culture of empowerment is very important. And if you can create this when the crisis isn't happening in your workforce, you will be so dynamic no matter what comes your way. Your team will stand up, and it's something you can be proud of. You want to empower your staff at all levels to make decisions. As a leader, it's very difficult, especially if you're a big organization, to make every decision. So you need to train and teach the people below you to make decisions, empower them that they have the decision-making ability and authority. And all your job is that leader is just to be in the now of information, not to make the decision for them. Let them make the decision, and you be the person that they tell they've made this decision. If it's the wrong decision, then you can go back and you can help fix that as a solution, and then you can build that manager or that leader up for the next decision they have to make. Do not take away their decision-making authority just because you're the top leader. Create a culture where creativity and innovation are encouraged. You want to be a mentor. Create a mentorship stability in your organization. Create tier mentors that can help develop programs and support staff as they navigate their own leadership style in your organization. You want to foster a sense of belonging. People work really good when they feel like they're part of a team. Every individual wants to be a part of something. They want to be a part of success. They want to be a part of the solution. You as the leader and the top leader of the organization, you can do this by creating an environment for them, for your workforce, that you have a sense of belonging environment that you're leading through. So diversity and inclusion, cultural sensitivity, community engagement, all three of those areas are important to help create a successful environment that everybody has an input, right? Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, you have an opportunity to be successful, and it's an equal playing field. All you want for them is them to provide a opportunity to ensure that your community is taken care of. And by you supporting them and providing those resources to them and allowing them to have that sense of belonging, it's going to be so dynamic for you that your community will excel at everything that they do. The role of education in building resiliency is so important. When we look at the role of education, a lot of people just think of schooling or kids going to school, right? The scenario I'll throw at you is the power, or knowledge is power, right? And so when we look at education, we want to make sure that the leader of the organization provides an opportunity for everybody in the organization to always enhance their knowledge, skills, and ability. You should never stop anybody from learning. Everybody should be a student of life. They should be a student of learning. And when individuals get to the point to where they're just coming in, checking a box, and they're not learning anything new, they're not being challenged, that's where your organization will start to slow down. So you as the leader, you need to make sure that you're providing educational training, providing that opportunity for professional development, and create the opportunity for them to understand the environment they're working in. A key factor that I always challenge everybody on, regardless of what environment you're in, as the leader, regardless of what level you're at, take the opportunity to understand the environment you're in and ensure that all your employees in your workforce understand the knowledge that's in the community, that they understand how the community operates, from the oldest person in the community to the youngest person in the community, because the oldest person in the community has value and the youngest person in the community has value, and their value matters. So if the employee workforce understands the community that they're serving, when a crisis happens, they're going to have a little bit of understanding and knowledge of how they can help that community get through difficult times. So challenge yourself as a leader to make sure that you're creating that environment where it's always learning, regardless of what the issue is. If it's learning through a book, learning through a seminar, learning through a training class somebody's got to go to, or putting them in the community to learn the community attributes, the knowledge of the tradition, the culture, the values. Have them always be on the path of learning, and let them know that is your priority. Let them know that the role of education is about teaching them throughout their whole legacy as they're an employee with your tribe. The importance of community collaboration. It's so important to have the community on your side, right? They're not going to agree with everything that you do or decision you make, but it's important to have that collective action brought together so you can address the issues, right? Sometimes as leaders, we look at things through our own lens, right? It's important to have that lens, but equally as important is to make sure that your community is on your side and you understand their view, right? So through their lens is really how you have to understand what decisions have to be made. So if you can understand how your community is empowered, understand how do you get them to take ownership of whatever crisis you're going through. If you have those recipes, then you're going to be a dynamic leader that can implement those recipes through your lens and through their lens to be successful during that crisis. How can you do that? Storytelling. It's very important that as a leader that you take time and your employees take time just to sit around and have discussions. I always go back to just sitting around in a non-threatening setting, having a cup of coffee, or just sitting on somebody's front porch and learning about the environment. right? So as a leader, you should be promoting that. You should be promoting the sharing of experiences from people in your community. Encourage your workforce to seek out those individuals who have that knowledge from the past. You can always learn from the past. You can learn from the culture of the environment and sit down and build those resiliency attributes through storytelling, connecting them with people who have that shared experience. Passing knowledge down is something that you can't take away from somebody, and people get more out of sometimes that knowledge being passed down than being sent to a training or told to read a book, right? So you want to make sure that you create those environments, have those storytelling opportunities regardless of whatever location you want to choose, but create the environment so stories can be shared. Create the environment that people can learn from the community, and vice versa. The community can learn from employees, so it's just not one-sided. The storytelling is in the community and from the community, in the organization and from the organization. So you want to make sure you create that environment as the leader. Power of gratitude. Gratitude is so important that people understand that you want to express gratitude, because it helps shift focus towards positive aspects of life, right? Always keeping that positive mind frame to strengthen the bonds internally in your organization and externally. Gratitude has a tremendous foundation that brings people together, and it brings that sense of community. So you want to bolster that gratitude. Always have that positive mindset regardless of what's going on. Pull the positive out of the negative, right? Don't be so quick to go down the negative Nelly side. Take a breath as the leader. Give yourself the opportunity to identify what that positive is in the environment, and then use that as motivation for you to get through that challenge. So you as the leader, if you can expose yourself to always being positive, and when you come in contact with people, you're going to spread your positivity out. Don't be fake about it. Be real. But you always want to make sure that you provide people that opportunity, that there is hope. There is hope out there, and you're going to get through whatever you're getting through, and you're going to stay positive. And in order for you to do that, you need their help. You need them to remain positive and spread that positive aroma throughout the organization and the community. Excuse me. You want to embrace that hope. Maintain a positive outlook, again, through that power of change, right? People do not like change. That's, as what people would say, is human nature, right? But the reality is, if you can get them to buy into the change and show them that there's hope if they change, and show them what's on the other side of that change, they're going to work together to collaborate for a better future for your community. This is really what builds resiliency, is providing that power of change as the leader, explaining to people what that change is all about, getting their buy-in, and then working together to build that relationship up. And you will find that key ingredient of success. And that success will happen even in times of uncertainty. You will have success because you're working together with people. People are positive, and you always have that positive and hope mentality. Resiliency on a holistic approach. I look at this as 3 levels. There's 3 levels. There's the individual level of resiliency, the organizational level of resiliency, and then your community resiliency. So as the tribal leader, you have to support the well-being of individual members of the community, right? That includes you as the individual, right? So supporting their individual well-being of the individual members in the community and your organization, right? Organizational resiliency is, how do you build your organization up to be sustainable, to ensure that your organization is carrying out the mission on a quiet day and also on a crisis day. So you want to build your organizational resiliency up. Then your community resiliency. You want to make sure you're creating the resilient and thriving mindset amongst your tribal members to let them know that they are collectively as a community, an important part of your success getting through any type of crisis. So if you focus on the individuality, you focus on the organization as a whole, and then you focus on the community as a whole, you're going to be able to get through through the holistic approach, you'll be able to get through any crisis that's upon you. The resiliency of collective responsibility. Leadership is commitment. You don't have the authority to give away your leadership authority or your responsibility. So you must model resiliency and inspire others. You must engage tribal members through this entire process. You cannot do this alone. You have to make sure you have a collective mindset as the leader, right? And through this, you'll build partnerships in the front end, but through the crisis, you want to also build partnerships, because as you go through this and building partnerships through the crisis, you can leverage those resources once you get through the crisis. And then the next time something comes across your path, the expertise that you've garnered from that last crisis, you're going to be able to use it with the new crisis, and you're going to see how better you are, how better your organization is, and how better your community is if you build off those partnerships. When we look at the journey of growth, it's very important that we evaluate what that growth is. And I want to use the analogy of a tree, as you see in this first picture here. That, so picture this tree. It has strong roots. It's a symbol of resiliency and a symbol of growth and leadership. The tree's journey begins with someone planting that seed of vision and purpose, right? So picture you as the leader, right? You're the leader. You're equivalent to that tree, and you've been planted, and you've started out from ground zero as a leader. You've been promoted into a position of leadership. So the root system is the foundation and the stability. The purpose and values, the roots anchor the tree, symbolize the core values and the purpose of a leader. Right? Let me repeat that. The roots anchor the tree. The roots symbolize the core values and purpose of the leader. This guides the decision making and provides stability during turbulent times. Deep understanding. Like roots drawing nutrition from the soil, effective leaders seek knowledge and understanding, learning from experiences and external inputs. When we look at the trunk of the tree, that exhibits the strength and support. Solid leadership. The trunk represents the leader's strength and ability to support the organization and build trust, integrity, and reliability. It also creates communication channels. The trunk also symbolizes open communication, ensuring the flow of ideas and feedback from the branches. And your branches are your team members. Those are the team members that go across your organization. Those branches represent each one of your team members. And the roots are your core values in your organization. So the trunk symbolizes open communication by using the flow of ideas and feedback from your employees. Talk about the branches. The branches recognize and mirror the growth and flexibility of leadership. It gives you the opportunity to adapt strategies. Branches grow in various directions, as we know, showing adaptability and the ability to explore new opportunities while staying grounded. Team empowerment shows growth and flexibility. Each branch is supported by the trunk. Just as a leader empowers their team to grow, innovate, and contribute to the organization's success. Branches provide the opportunity to support the trunk. Leaders empower their team to grow, innovate, and contribute to the organization's success. Let's talk about the leaves of the tree. It's the nourishment and the renewal. Learning and development. Leaves capture the sunlight and they turn it into energy for the tree. Similarly, ongoing learning and professional development nourish the leadership and the team itself. When we look at recycling or renewal recycle, leaves fall and then they regrow on the tree, reflecting the needs of leaders to embrace change, renew strategies, and adapt to sustainable growth. When we look at fruit on a tree, that recognizes and represents the results and impacts. Achieving goals. The fruit represents the outcome of effective leadership. Achieving goals and creative positive impacts on the community and the organization. Fruit also represents legacy building. Just as a tree's fruit contains seeds for new growth, a leader's impact inspires future generations, leaving a lasting legacy. And lastly is resiliency, weathering a storm or weathering a crisis. Facing a challenge, strong roots help the tree withstand any storm that it encounters. Leaders with a solid foundation and adaptable strategy weathers organizational changes and challenges. As a leader, you want to bounce back. Even when branches break on a tree, the tree regrows. Resilient leaders learn from setbacks, they emerge stronger, and they guide their team to renewed vigor. In this vision that I just elaborated on, the tree symbolizes not only growth, but success on the journey of resilience. We can cultivate as a leader strong roots. We can support a robust trunk, and we can nurture adaptable branches. By doing that as leaders, we can ensure their organizations thrive, they adapt, and they flourish in any environment and any crisis that they come upon. The journey of growth is continuous, requiring nurturing, adaptation, and steadfast commitment to the core values and support of success. We want to make sure that we're that tree as leaders, and we're every aspect of that tree, starting with the strong roots that we've been provided that opportunity for leadership. Somebody saw something special in us to be leaders. They planted us, and it's our job to grow that tree, grow those roots, and rebuild when that tree has something happen to it. We want to invest in the future of resiliency. Again, we want to continue education, we want to upgrade our infrastructure, and we want to be innovative in everything we do. I repeat that because it's so important. These three areas are so important, and it's like a cycle. They're always evolving, and we have to be reminded as leaders that this investment is very important for our success. Resiliency has a legacy for future generations. If we're not resilient today, our future of our generations is going to suffer. So as we've been going through our process through generations, we want to continue to protect our land. Protect the land regardless of where you're at. Preserve the environment for future generations. You want to look at what you can do to strengthen your culture and also empower your people. And if you look at these three areas, it's going to help you become more resilient when that crisis happens. As we look at the path forward of resiliency, we want to look at self-reflecting. It's so important for you as a leader to recognize you're not by yourself. And a lot of times I see leaders take a lot of things on their shoulders, and they get to the point where they fail to recognize they have to have the opportunity to listen to others and self-reflect and hear those difficult things that they don't want to hear. Provide yourself that opportunity to listen to others, to garner their attributes and tell you what's wrong, what's right, and what needs to be done better. Don't be afraid to listen to the hard decisions or the hard feedback. Sometimes communities can be very ruthless. Sometimes people can come out and be very implicit on what they're telling you. Don't take anything personal as a leader. Take the opportunity to understand where that person's coming from. And by doing that, you can be self-reflective of yourself. Doesn't mean that you what they're saying is you're going to take 100%, but it provides an opportunity for you to listen. You want to be a good listener, and then you want to take that listening and see where you're contributing to either that negative outcome or even the positive outcome. So self-reflection is important, and hearing those positive or negative attributes will help you as you navigate this path of success of resiliency. Collaboration is important. I stress to you again, collaboration, because you are not alone. A lot of times, because of the way the environment is, crises come upon us and things are moving a mile a minute. And as a leader, you develop this mentality. It's easier for you to do it yourself because you know that you have something else that's coming right behind it. So you just do it yourself, and then it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. Provide the opportunity for yourself to work with others. Work with the people directly underneath you, work with people across the aisle with you in other programs, and delegate. Delegate that information so there's a collaborative work environment that can build a sustainable future for your community, for your organization, for your employees, and for your leadership. I will tell you that I don't believe anybody goes to work for somebody with ill intentions. When somebody goes looking for a job, it may be for a variety of reasons, but when they come looking for a job, they want the best intentions and they want to be able to shine. It is our job as leaders to make sure that they shine when they come work for our organization. And by doing that, we can provide that opportunity to let them know we want them to be innovative. We want them to challenge us as leaders. We want them to teach us as leaders. And the student can always teach the teacher, right? So you as the leader is also the teacher. You can be taught by your employees. So take that opportunity to spread that knowledge to your workforce and allow them a voice. Allow them a voice to make your organization better. The power of collective action. Again, it's a shared vision, community engagement, resource mobilization. You want to make sure that through your entire process on quiet days and days that aren't so quiet, that you know and you have a pulse on your resources that are out there. And I'm not just talking about vehicles or equipment. I'm talking about human resources, the human capital that you have. You have individuals in your organization that are good in some areas and they may not be good in other areas. During a crisis, if you know somebody who's good in one area, take the time and the ability to put them in a position that's going to help you be successful. They may not be good in certain areas, but this one area that's going to help you through the crisis, put them there. And the only way you're going to know how good your individuals are is to know the resources, know how to mobilize them, know how to leverage them to the expertise that you're going through. Everyone has an expertise that you can learn from and that can make your organization and your operation successful. You want to mobilize those resources and have them at your fingertips so you can work with them to make your community safe and successful. Building a resilient future together, you embrace the resiliency with shared values. You can build a strong and more sustainable future for your community. It's all about working together. And as a leader, you're the one who sets that template. You are the one that creates that environment. So it all starts with you and it's on your shoulders. And if you didn't realize it and you have the title as a leader today, the good part about this is now you can start. And it's never too late. You can start being that leader to build your community up so they're resilient and they're looking towards the future to build a successful community. So no matter what that community faces, they're going to be able to get through it and be stronger on the other side. As we close today, this is our contact information. Please feel free to contact us for any of your needs. This is in the PowerPoint that Ms. Atkins put out there. And just in closing is, if you're a leader that's out there and you're responsible for your workforce, let people know you appreciate them. Let people know that you value them and they're a valued part of your organization. It's so important to have individuals that work for you. It's so important for them to understand that you appreciate them and they're a valued person in your organization. And it's just not a one-off. I encourage you, continue to let your people know that they're valued and they're part of the success of your organization. This will help strengthen your engagement when it comes to resiliency. It'll help strengthen you progress through a crisis. Again, it's not a one-off. And what I mean by that is take the time every week and every day to let people know you appreciate them. Send them a little email, send them a text message, go up to them in person and let them know that they're valued in your organization. If you can do that and you can spread that message consistently across your legacy as a leader, you will get anything done that comes across your path. I've learned that through my career. It's all about working together and having a good, solid team behind you that support you. They may not agree with you all the time, but they're going to support you and they're going to do what they need to do to make sure everybody shines. They're going to stand up when that bell is rung to make sure your community is taken care of, because that's really what it's all about. It's all about taking care of the community. And you, as the tribal leader, his job is to get the work done through the organization down to the community to make sure your community is successful. And if your community is successful, your organization is going to be successful. If your organization is successful, your workforce is going to be successful. If your workforce is successful, guess what? You as a leader is successful. And that's the evolving process of leadership. So I wish you all the best on this Friday afternoon. You made it through the week. You made it through the 4 webinars. We appreciate you. Please have a great weekend. Ms. Atkins, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Will. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and put the survey link in the chat right now. It is anonymous. If you could please fill that out for us, we would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget, our next webinar is going to be Grant Writing, Mastering the Basics and Beyond. It will be next February 27th. Showtimes are 2 p.m. EST, 1 p.m. CST, 12 p.m. MST, 11 a.m. PST, and 10 a.m. Alaska time. You can access this webinar recording as well as all our webinar recordings on our YouTube channel under the Catheta Webinars archive. You can access all 5 webinars that Will has done on there. Don't forget to check out our upcoming events on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We also have a podcast called Hope Within a Native American Podcast, and you can find that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Simplecast. I want to thank everyone once again for joining us today, and a great special thanks to Will. Thank you so much for today. Everyone have a wonderful day. Goodbye.